Hi, it's Lisa Elvin Steltari here from Have Roots Will Travel. I am so excited to be able to present to you. I think what's going to end up being a three-part series with genealogist Amy Urman, where we talk about death records and how to really glean the most information and what paths you can take to be able to really learn more about your ancestor. So, with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our pre recorded Zoom that we did. And I hope you enjoy. Any comments or questions, please feel free to post in the comments below. And that's it for now. Let's get started.
Look for. So, in this case, since he was found due to the burns, we're going to look at newspaper information. We're going to look at property records to see if this property was condemned at some point, if something would have happened. It just gives us more clues for looking for information. And this is another page of the Inquisition that we were just looking at.
So I think that, as we're looking at death records and funeral records and all of that, we're really telling the story, That's
right.
We're not just gathering dates, and some genealogists, I found what they died of. Okay.
Yeah, but there's more to it.
There's more to it.
Like the people that died from the flu epidemic when it came through with the soldiers.
Yeah.
There's a huge story as to how it went across country. We never had a great system for transport. And then these guys come back from World War I, and we have created this great system of trains now. And we took that virus from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast because we had great trains. And it normally, like for the flu, it didn't just affect one person in the family. There were multiple people that were probably sick, multiple people that probably died, and it changes a family.
Oh gosh.
So it kind of, do you know the story of the woman in the roast?
No.
So this woman, she's cutting the roast in half, and her daughter said to her, "Why are you cutting the roast in half?" And she said, "I don't know. My mom always did that." So she called her mom, and she said, "I don't know. My mom always did it." She called her mom, and her mom said, "Well, I never had a pan big enough for the damn roast." And genealogy is like that.
Oh, that's a brilliant story, Amy. I love it.
So,
oh my gosh,
there's a reason why things happen. We might not understand. I mean, it took one young person to ask, 3 generations back why that roast was being cut in half, and 2 generations who didn't even question it. I just put it in the pan. But yeah, the lady never had a pan.
You know what? That reminds me of, the subject we came on about my husband's grandfather and how he remembered as a young boy in the 50s going with his grandfather to register. And I said to you, why would he have done that if he was already a citizen? Well, come to find out, I did a little digging. And in 1940, all Italians had to register. And so, whether they were citizens or not,
enemies of the state.
Exactly. And so because my husband remembered it, that's the thing about genealogy. Somebody has to remember it. And so that gives a tapestry to his memory of his grandfather, that he wasn't, in his mind as a little boy, he was just going to fill out some paperwork. But now he finds out, X number of years later, wow, he lived like this. Like this is what he was, a proud citizen, blah, blah, blah. And he became the enemy of the state. And so that is just that tidbit. It adds flavor, it adds tapestry to the story. So
and it changes. It could have possibly changed his view on police, and that could have been passed down generation to generation to generation.
Yeah.
Some people are deathly afraid of something And it's because their parents were afraid of something.
Oh gosh,
And,
yes.
everything is
And
past.
why? Yeah.
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 And we might not ever know exactly why, but we can surmise from information that we found out about their lives as to why they felt that way.
Oh yeah, and it's important to write it down and document it and all of that. Even the stuff that we are doing. You know what I mean? Like for our kids. Because our kids will go, well, I don't know why I'm doing. Why am I cutting the rose? I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. And my question is were any of my four kids possibly ever going to ask about why you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It wouldn't come to their mind to even question something.
exactly, exactly.
Well, just kind of to end up things, other places to check for death records, ship records, and passenger lists. That includes airplanes and ships, all that. Death registers. If we look for things that are just called death registers, which are the big books kept by the county or the state, those are going to be at your archives or at your local offices. Institutional records. If we do the next death talk at a later point, I have some great records
Good.
of veterans that were admitted to an asylum, and we can see how their life plays out by the entries in that asylum book. American Medical Associations is great for finding dead physicians because they're registered with them. School records, newsletters, yearbooks. So a yearbook will have a tribute to
Okay.
somebody who has died. Alumni records sometimes note if somebody that you went to school with has passed, um, or it might actually be a record of a child that died while they were at school. But there's a lot of records associated with schools that we can look for. Occupational records, and that's kind of along the same thing. If somebody is a plumber, they might have been in a plumbers union. So we'll have some newsletters from the Plumbers Association that will talk about if somebody died or somebody didn't die. So association records, and that goes with fraternal organizations also.
Okay.
So if we know somebody was a veteran of foreign wars, we could check VFW records, or if they were um, any association that they could have belonged to, there could likely be a record. When my great grandfather Theodore Mietel died, he worked for International Harvester. He was retired from International Harvester, but there's a little tidbit that he passed away like 10 years after he retired. So it's actually in their newsletter for
Oh,
International
wow.
Harvester. So home records, again, Bibles, letters, newsletters, journals, um, funeral and memorial cards, financial records. If you have any copies of old income tax records, you can tell that there's only one person listed, not two people listed. So it
Amazing.
makes you think there's something happened. And then real estate records, if that record changes hand, if it goes from being owned by a couple, being owned to one person, it gives you a clue as to when somebody died. I think I have a little bit more. Mortality schedules. So these are the schedules that were used.
These are really good.
Yeah, but there's little rules. The rules kind of change, but I think it's what was it, 6 or 9 months prior to the date of the census. So
Yeah,
not the full year.
not the full year.
I was lucky that a great 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 grandfather died a few months prior to that. So we know.
Only genealogists would say that, right? I was lucky that my great great grandfather.
I was lucky that he was kind enough to die in the correct time to be
Exactly.
listed on this
Yeah,
mortality
I
schedule.
know. I
So
know.
we know that he died in February of
Yes.
1880. So that was great. We're not always that lucky, of
Okay.
course. And it says what they died of. And this was really interesting when this was put in. Each doctor gave the information. So first we have the listings by Dr. Mackenzie, and then we have the listings for Dr. McClellan.
Okay.
So he entered all of his information. So these are not in, they're in date order of the doctor's records.
Okay, got it.
So the next doctor came in and put his records in by his date. So we might have February, March, April, January. It just
It just depends.
bizarre.
Mm.
Um, Guest books, memorial cards, mourning cards, photographs, sympathy cards and records. My mother, I constantly asked my mother about her relatives, and she told me she didn't know anything about them. This is a funeral book from my grandfather. Funeral, relatives attending. It's all in the same hand. They had somebody entering in people as they came in.
Okay.
Under the relatives page, which makes them relatives for me to research. Mother who didn't know she had this book since her father passed.
Wow.
So the whole time I was asking questions about the family that she knew nothing about. There's a whole
There it
bunch of
was.
leads right here. Crazy woman.
Okay.
Again, this is just burial permits. Again, archival archive grid. I love archive grid. I'm addicted to it. I put in burial permits just to see what would come up. There were 925 listings of burial permits.
Wow.
Um, this, of course, is from Massachusetts. These are from West Grove, Pennsylvania. The next ones are from Connecticut. So there's
That's
925.
925
Yeah, that
permits. Those are 925 records. Inside
records
of that, there's
that
um,
have that in their collection.
thousands and thousands.
Right, right. This is on WorldCat. I
Yeah.
just put an entry and said, "Hey, let's put in burial permits and see what comes up." There was a whole bunch of listings, um, but still more return. So this is local board of health for the city of St. John in New Brunswick. Here we have Hardin County, Ohio. There was a book that was done on it. So we don't have to go searching for the actual receipts. We do have a book that will give us a little bit of information. Oh, this is the same darn slide.
There
We
you go.
went through that already. Oh,
Oh, I love
these
that.
are memorial cards. And here, this one's really interesting because it is, um, it talks about our shipmate. When I first read it, I read it as our shipmate JDW Stubbs Stoker. So I thought Stoker was his last name. I had to do a little bit more information, and it ends up a stoker was somebody who was stoking the engines.
Oh,
So
okay.
his name
What's
was
stuff?
J.W. Stubbs.
Okay.
Period. He was a stoker on the HMS. I don't even know how to Astoria.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Accidentally killed in Hong Kong. So we have this gentleman's name. We know that he was killed in Hong Kong. We know the date. So we can glean some more information about this person. We know the ship, so we can check ship records. We have his name. We know when he died. We know he was 29, so that will give us an approximate date of birth. And we can follow those records for the ship to see where he joined the crew. So that's a great, great record. Here's another one in loving remembrance. We
Beautiful.
have all the vital information for her, and we have this lovely picture.
It's just so. Hmm.
Once somebody has passed and we know their date of death, we can order their social security application. This is marvelous because we have an original signature, which I love, and we have the actual person telling us who their father is and who their mother is.
And not in this one, but whenever a couple of times that I've done this, I've been able to get the social security. I'm not seeing a social security number, or maybe
Oh, it's up here.
it's up here.
The
Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay.
301.
That's and what was it that I asked for? No, I'm sorry. I'm getting confused. And the death certificate was the social security that I finally found. And then I applied for that, and it was just amazing to me. Like, oh my gosh.
Now
Um,
this
yeah,
is from
no,
1936, so they
yeah,
get a little bit more involved, a little bit more information
yeah,
past this point. Because
exactly.
remember, we just started Social Security um, in the 1930s. It was a new thing. This was like one of the first forms that they filled out. But then, being a government, of course, we made the forms longer and more
Of course,
intricate.
of course.
So for people that have that fill these out later. There'll be more information because it will be in a different form. But
Yeah, mine is dated from about that time period, 1936. It was my husband's great grandfather, and it was amazing. Great, no, just his grandfather actually, and he had applied for it in 1936. So it was just amazing. The same time, and we learned so much from that application. We confirmed his mother's maiden and all that, so very, very important.
then we know he was born in Yugoslavia, and then we would have to check the records regarding Social Security when he filled this out as
But
to
proof?
if he was an alien.
Okay.
Was he said he was born in Yugoslavia. He's filling out a Social Security application. Can we assume that he was a citizen now of the United States?
Is the question maybe should we assume?
Right, right. Should we assume?
Yeah.
So that's a question. We would need to look up
Very good.
the law, but that will lead us to more records because if we know that he was a citizen in 1936, we know that the records that we're looking for his naturalization are prior to 1936.
Okay.
Of course, with that name, Urmanovich,
Yeah, I mean,
it
yeah,
probably wouldn't be too hard to find.
No, exactly.
And that is this is the great grandfather of my husband.
Oh, wow.
Urmanovich, luckily for me, was shortened to Urman.
Yay. Yeah.
Missouri has tons of their death certificates online. This is just a small example. So this is the coroner's inquest. They also have their death records online, but they have an inquest record online. It's not giving you the actual document, but it's telling us about it, and we can actually order the document because we have a real number, we have the date of death, and we know that he died during this time period, and we know that how he died and where it was located.
So all states would have some sort, they may not have a database like this, but they would have.
Right. Well, a coroner's inquest is only when the death was not
Suspicious,
yeah, if it was slightly suspicious
Okay.
or if it could be work related. Anything that's
Got
work related, they usually do an inquest too.
Okay, got
Because
it.
they need to associate blame. If it was a company, they want to be able to blame the
Exactly.
or if it was the employee, all that insurance and fun stuff.
Mm.
Now, this is interesting. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. So this is a printed document. There were numerous pages to this, but we have Irene's funeral service. This is written by Irene. We have her signature down at the bottom. We know that she wants to be buried in her pink dress, pink shoes, bra slip. She doesn't want her jewelry. She changed her mind. And that she wants her hair to look great. We have a church service. She's asking for a mass and pallbearers. She has requested how her bouquet should be, how the lights in the church should be, and what the choir should be singing. And then afterwards, we have information on where the service is going to be after. Now, it was going to be here, but she had an argument with them, so it was moved to Irv's Mug. Then, of course, this person is off the list, and we have a new person being written in.
Wow.
Very particular. We want everybody to be seated. We want grace to be served. We want a drink of their choice. This is the menu, chef cut, which means that the chef is going to cut it in front of you. Very specific.
Really?
So, what do you think of Irene? What can you tell me about Irene just by looking at this?
Well, obviously Irene was prepared and she definitely
That's a kind word.
so, and I think that she did not trust her. That says to me, like when you are that specific, it means that you don't trust other people to do to do right by you, in other words. And so
she was very used to having things her way.
Okay.
We do know that she's Catholic because she's saying Our Lady of the Queen of Peace Church
Yeah.
also, and that she has a father named. You notice that the first father is whited out. We had another disagreement there, so
Okay.
that here. She's asking for some of the service to be done in Polish,
Okay.
so we know she's Polish. We know she likes things her way or it's the highway.
I love that pallbearers.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, and the thing is, this bless her heart, I loved Irene to death,
And
but
who was she again?
she was my husband's grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And if she had a lake house, so we would go to the lake house and take the kids swimming. All the grandkids would be at the lake, water skiing or doing whatever. If you walk through the kitchen and she was sitting in one of those chairs, she'd be like, "Oh, you're not doing anything. You drive to Milwaukee and get me some blood sausage, and get me this and get me that." Very specific. And then she'll say, I will know if you don't go to the correct deli. Hey, I will go to
Okay.
the correct deli. Um, but we can tell, she tells us so much in this document um, about herself without her telling us anything about herself.
Exactly.
We know that she was a little controlling. We know that she was Polish. We know that she was Catholic. Um, we know this is a very controlled environment that she's creating. Um, this goes on and on for numerous
Oh, you're
pages.
kidding. Wow.
No, and it also states how everybody is inheriting, why they're inheriting. Um, we also had to dance the polka um, at the.
Now, this was left to whom? The instructions.
So the person that was in charge of her estate, the executor, had to send this out to everybody who was receiving something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we all had to hightail it to Wisconsin. We all had to
Wow.
do what she said in order for us to get an inheritance. It wasn't just the inheritance. I mean, we wanted to say goodbye to her and be with the family.
Wow.
There were rules. There were rules.
Yeah.
And the other thing, we have Polish sausage, potato salad, coleslaw, jello mold, relishes, cake, and cookies for the kids. So the kids were not allowed to have cake; they had to have cookies. And I don't think, okay, when everybody's seated, you say grace, and everybody gets one drink of their choice. That's one alcoholic drink.
Oh, wow.
So it was very specific. And then on another page, it says the children were only allowed to drink root beer,
Okay.
nothing else.
Nothing
So
else.
it was interesting. But a lot of clues just from what she wrote
That's
and how she
amazing.
wrote it as to who the person is. And I find that fascinating.
I do.
Now, this is interesting. I don't know if you've done any research with these.
I have not.
Okay, so the National Corporation Reporter is kind of similar to the territorial daily news that we have here. Have you heard of that paper?
I have not. I'm sorry, the territorial.
The Daily Territorial.
Yes.
These are newspapers specific to, this one is Chicago, and the one I was talking about, the territorial paper,
Yeah.
here in Tucson. They are legal newspapers.
Okay.
They only publish legal things. So if I'm going to file a suit against somebody and I can't find it, it's going to be reported in a newspaper.
Okay.
Now I can pay to have it put in the Arizona Daily Star, which is going to cost an arm and a leg, or I can go through the territorial paper, which is going to be like 1/10 of the amount.
Okay.
And it's notices to people about some type of legal thing. And this is talking about the estate of John W. Meatel, deceased. Theodore Meatel is the administrator. So this is the estate of John Meatel, deceased, versus Reinhold Meatel, Emma Meatel, Theodore Meatel. So the estate is suing these people on behalf of John W. Meatel, deceased.
Okay.
And it talks about this is a public notice, why they're being sued, and it gives information on property that John owned. And then we have a little bit of information about that. So we can go to the recorder's office, get some more information, but this is through the probate court. but it's not a normal probate.
Okay.
But here it is listing everybody that's involved
That's amazing.
is somebody who is going to be benefiting.
And is this for, it says the national corporation, so obviously this is national for the
Uh,
big cities.
this one is, yes. But it's specific to area. So they'll only have like Chicago information, Chicago, Indiana,
Okay,
that type of stuff. And the territorial here is just going to have Pima County
okay,
information. So when people are trying to settle estates or they're looking to adopt a child, all those legal notices have to be put in the paper.
okay,
So this is the cheap way out, is by going through somebody who does legal notices,
okay.
legal notice newspaper. So we would probably go to the Arizona Daily Star, and not, if we didn't know about the territorial newspaper, we wouldn't even look there.
No. But if you were like researching, let's say in Massachusetts,
We would need to see if there was a legal publication
Right.
during that time where
Okay.
they would be, and that's a little bit of homework. We're
okay,
gonna have to call up newspapers and legal notice newspapers to see if it could be published in a different type of newspaper.
okay.
And like I said, these were a lot cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
We already went through this. I don't know why, but that's a double. This is more information on that same
Yes.
estate,
Yeah.
and it's talking about the specifics, exact date of the death, the taxes that have or have not been paid. So it's got a wealth of information in those legal notices.
Amazing.
So we talked about coroner records, so died under suspicious conditions, and it will tell us if an autopsy was done. It gives witness statements, family contact information, and the belongings. I don't know why my slides are out of place, and we already went through that.
I know.
And so I'm just going to end with this.
Oh.
This one cracks me up. This was off of, I think, Find a Grave. I should have
Okay.
where it was from. But I wanted to remind everybody to check the laws. So in Illinois, the Cemetery Care Act, and this is the legal
Okay.
location of the law, it says cemeteries are responsible for maintaining the name of the interred, the date of death, and the location of the remains. They're also required to give you a map with a specific location of burial. Now, I like to find out the law. So when I walk into a place and they say, no, they can't do that,
Oh, yeah.
I can put this up on the counter and say, I'm sorry, what? You know,
You have to tell everyone who you're married to. In addition to being a private investigator, you are married to.
right. Right. Well, and I got to tell you, a lot of the information that I go looking for, I'm told no, even if
Okay.
I have a PI license.
Okay.
So that's why I always default to the law, because most of the time people say no because they can.
Yeah.
But if you're armed with
Very
the law,
important.
it makes a huge difference. I can walk into a place and say, no, look, according to the law, you have to give me that information. And then if I'm really being snotty, I'll say, hey, and also, by the way, I want that map with the details of the location.
And she really can be snotty. She really can.
Yeah, I can.
It's great. I've gone to conventions with her. Trust me. It's great. No, real. I have been a beneficiary of that snottiness. So yes.
But it has also gotten us into a lot of trouble.
It has.
It's give and take with us. But that's something that I really want everybody to keep in mind, is to check the laws. And it's really easy. You just go, if you just put Illinois laws or Arizona laws, and you get to their general page about laws. You just type in cemeteries or burials, something that will give you some information, and look through them and see what information they have to provide for you. And like I said, always having a copy of this when you go someplace is huge. You might not have to pull it out, but it's a really nice thing to have when somebody's refusing to give you information.
I love that. Thank you so much for that tip. It really is very helpful.
And that's all I have. I hope that was
Oh, that
interesting.
was so amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm probably going to be, kind of putting this in segments,
Hmm.
for the viewers just to bite size, you know what I mean? And because I think we've been going for, I think an hour and a bit, an
Sorry,
hour and a half. Yeah.
sorry.
So,
I
no, but
love
I mean,
death
like,
records.
I think, and this was my goal. My goal was that we would never, the viewers would never look at the death certificate the same way again. They would never approach death the same way. You
And
know,
that's huge. We
it's
death
huge.
can
I
give
remember
us,
the first time it happened to me, right?
yeah,
And you're like,
yeah,
oh my gosh. But then you get scared because then it's like way more, like it's just the deeper you go into genealogy, the harder it gets. It's the reverse of why, and that's why, because it's a mystery and you have
it
to,
is.
you know,
It is.
and and it's harder, but it's also as the deeper you go, you also learn where to look. And that's what
Right.
this session has been invaluable for.
And death records are a Kodak moment. It is a picture of a person and the person's family at a specific time, which
Exactly.
can mean so much, like Irene's list for her death. That is huge if you want to know more about her.
Yeah.
That piece of paper, her 6-page instruction handout, gives us so much information about her. We know who she is. We know
Yeah.
what religion she is. We know a lot about her without never having talked to her. We've learned a lot.
I
We
love,
know she was
I
Polish.
love
We know
this
she was
little
Catholic.
slide that you got going on here. This is good. This little guy, he's like distracting me. I'm easily distracted, but it's very, very.
We'll have to talk about him off camera because I can.
You gave me this already. I haven't used it. I
Oh,
know.
did you? You
I
should.
do. I do. I do. But
Good.
so I want to say thank you to Amy
Sure.
Urman of Nosy Wilma, and we will be seeing her again, probably in looking at. I think we talked about marriage records or something, and so yeah.
Well, yeah, we do marriage records, or we can go into some more interesting.
Oh yeah, there's more
There's
of the death.
more
We
death
gotta
records
finish. We
than
gotta
this.
finish. We gotta make them dead. So
Yeah, gotta make
definitely.
that.
So
And there's
thank
some
you.
really great records I didn't have a chance to share with
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much.
you. Okay, I'll see you later, maybe
Okay, I'm just
at a
going to
meeting.
stop the recording now. There we go. This concludes part 3 of Genealogy Girl Talk, focusing on death records. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I have, and I learned a few things, and I hope you did too. That's the great thing about genealogy. We just keep on learning. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoy the rest of the day and that you go and discover some new clues to your ancestors. Take good care, and we'll see you soon.